Well, I like to, as I say, one thing I'm good at is abstract concepts. So what are the abstract concepts here? And people ask me, what's my position on immigration? And I say I would let everybody in who comes here to contribute, and no one who wants to come here to do harm. And see how easy this is?
But it's hard to tell the difference, isn't it?
That's right. Well, that's another question. But I mean, this goes to our whole philosophy of openness. You have to have, if we want a society that has these virtues, we have to have an open society, be open to ideas, people, goods and services, to learn from each other and have us all benefit.
Yep. So there are two issues. One is the dreamers, people who are kids who are brought here as children by their parents illegally, and the question is, can they have a legal status? Can they have a pathway to citizenship? That's one set of issues. And the other is, I mean, they come together, but they can be dealt with separately, is the concept of comprehensive immigration reform. What has stood in the way? What are the politics of immigration reform, or of both issues, have you found, Charles?
Well, I mean, I think it's once again this the political nature of the dynamics is both parties. They both may agree that we need this change, or not everybody, but by and large, we need these changes in policy to help people improve their lives, but they think it'll help the other party more, so they won't do it. And so we can't make any progress on policies that the great majority of the American people and even the majority of the politicians agree would be the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So it gets in this political dynamic of this win-lose as opposed to what we want of society that's win-win. So
the Freedom Caucus on the Hill, are they, and that sort of stems from the Tea Party, if I understand it correctly, have they stood in the way of immigration reform, or do you need an approach that works better for them? What are the politics of this?
I go back to what David Brooks said in the last panel, that the opportunity here is to, for a small group of people probably, to demonstrate what good looks like here, and for the rest of us to copy them, mm-hmm. right? And so that's kind of what we're focused on, and that's, I think, what the opportunity is on immigration. And so I think a lot of different people in public policy, in Congress, in the community, are waiting to see what they can do. And I think the way that we're looking at it is we have an opportunity, again, to unite people of good faith, of different perspectives on the issue of immigration and show that path forward. When you look at the numbers, I mean, people here know the numbers as well as I do. The vast majority of Americans believe what is true, and that is that immigration is good. Right? Our country has benefited from it. It's kind of the secret sauce of our country, right? Immigrants have made us the country we are. Our future depends on doing that going forward.
I guess what I'm asking is there a connection between those polls that show majorities and the political process once this gets on the Hill? Does a member of Congress say to themselves, well, gee, 80% of the public wants this, so I'll do it? Or does that member of Congress say, actually, the folks who voted for me in the primary have pressed me to do it? So we've got sort of structural impediments to collaborate.
That's right. And I think it's a hard task for sure, but it's not nearly impossible. Mm-hmm. And again, I go back to what's worked. The model of criminal justice reform in this case is the model, I think, and that we're working for on issues like immigration.
Yep.
So literally up until the week before the First Step Act passed in December, we were getting calls saying this thing is dead.
This thing is dead?
This thing is dead. It's not going to pass, right? And why did it pass? Well, I think a lot of people deserve a lot of credit. People, again, of good faith from different perspectives. But a big reason why it passed, I think, and this gets to your question, how do you overcome this political inertia, is because we had this broad coalition and a number of different people who could call up the people that were tentative or hesitant and say, hey, it's going to be okay, I got your back. So we worked hand in hand with Van Jones, with the ACLU, with many other people of good faith who come from more of a progressive point of view. We also worked hand in hand with people like the Texas Public Policy Foundation, members of the White House, and people like Senator Mike Lee, who are about as conservative as they come, and they were able to do that as well for the people that were tentative. And so what you get is what is called a policy cascade, right, where up until that last minute it looks like an intransigent issue. It looks like an issue that the loggerheads are going to prevail, and all of a sudden you get 87 senators voting for it. And how does that happen?
Yeah.
You give them permission to do the right thing by showing them that there's a broad base of support that got their back. And I think that's the opportunity on immigration. It's a tragedy that it's gotten to this point, but the opportunity is for all of us to come together and create that permission for people to do the right thing.
Yeah. So let me actually, because you mentioned the ACLU, my understanding is that the Koch Institute have joined forces with the ACLU and others on this whole issue in Washington, this sort of effort to, in fact, demand that protesters, sort of activists in Washington, pay the Park Service for the litter that results or whatever, but that there's also, we're contemplating limits about where people could protest. So you took a stance on this, along with the ACLU.
I don't know.
We did. We did.
Believe me, they don't check with me on it.
We're bringing you together.
Just the philosophical issues.
It's right in line with the North Star. It really, it truly.
It's called the division of labor by comparative advantage.
This is breaking news. You've read your clips, right? This is yesterday.
Yes, this is yesterday.
That's right. We co-signed a letter with the ACLU and then NAACP, just making the point that, look, our society depends on creating the space for different ideas, different perspectives to come together peaceably and really have it out. And if you can't do that in front of the White House, or if you're relegated to a strip of sidewalk in front of the White House, or frankly, if government agencies, no matter who's in charge, have the ability to charge arbitrary fees that are really barriers to preventing people from peaceably assembling and having a rigorous exchange of ideas, I mean, you know, who are we as a country?
Right.
And so, yeah, these are easy actions to take in league with wonderful partners who share vision, values, and we bring complementary capabilities.
So when it came to criminal justice reform, your partners were, I mean, in the funding community, I don't know if Ford was in that. Tell us just who were, Hewlett, what were the foundations that ended up partnering?
Well, look, if I start to list, you know, I'll forget somebody that played an important role. I think, you know, the Arnold Foundation certainly had a significant voice in this, those that you mentioned for sure. Wonderful partners, people like the Deason Foundation, for instance, out of Texas. Again, I don't want to start to list people because I'll miss them, but
It's like the Academy Awards up here, so.
only not quite as glitzy, right? Yeah.
I didn't wear the right dress, I can tell you that.
But the point, but isn't it wonderful that we can't list everyone? I mean, this is the point. It's such a significant group, and here's the
And
thing.
then you can go back to them on other issues because you've had that experience and the trust that's built.
You got it.
So okay, for the folks in this audience, the opportunity is immigration reform, is the opportunity citizenship for dreamers. Are these the next two issues that you'll be focusing on?
Well, I mean, there's one other, or it's a combination. I think it's so corrosive in our country, and that is cronyism, corporate welfare, protectionism. When I say protectionism, I'm not just talking about nationwide, but individuals and organizations. And I think this is driven by just what we talked about by this short-termism, that so many companies are focused on their short-term profit rather than creating long-term value. So this increases, this isn't blanket, but this increases the tendency to rig the system rather than to create virtuous cycles of mutual benefit, to create real value and succeed by doing that. And what these cause is, well, they push us in general to a two-tiered society, but they undermine innovation, competition, and opportunity for those who start with nothing. So progress in general, and to me, it's suicidal for business. For people to support, the public to support business and business succeeding, they've got to run the business so it benefits the people. You can't just have it benefit a small group and then take advantage of everybody else. So this isn't, people say, well, that's utopian, that's idealistic. No, it isn't. It's practical. I mean, I hope it's idealistic. I hope they're good ideas. And that's why we oppose all of these boondoggles, all of this corporate welfare, protectionism, whether it makes us money or not. For example, on this, what the Republicans were pushing in Congress, this border adjustment tax would have made us over $1 billion a year. And guess how? By increasing the cost of goods to the Walmart buyers.
Right.
Are you all crazy? How is this good for the country? And that's what we want, a program that makes Koch Industries a lot of extra money by exploiting other people? This is suicide. And so that's the advantage of having a long-term view. Yeah. We don't have anybody checking our quarterly or